Hi, everybody. This is Jason Rosenbaum, a political correspondent with St. Louis Public Radio. Webster Groves native Karlie Kloss took the modeling world by storm in the 2010s before launching a highly successful effort to connect young women with computer coding and, more recently, helping to relaunch Life magazine. But on Monday, Kloss discussed another passion with me, her advocacy for abortion rights in Missouri and around the Midwest. In an exclusive interview with St. Louis Public Radio, Kloss discussed her decision to start the Gateway Coalition and why she's supporting the Missourians for Constitutional Freedom initiative. Here's my conversation with Karlie Kloss. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Before we talk about the initiative, I want to talk about you and your advocacy in the abortion rights space, because it's not a secret. You have been very active in promoting abortion rights in Missouri and elsewhere for a while, but I don't think you've talked about how much you've been doing. And I'd like to take this opportunity to do that.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Jason, for the conversation. I was trained as a clinic escort to help walk Planned Parenthood patients from their cars to the door almost a decade ago, so in my early 20s. This is an issue I care deeply about and have personally been very involved in for many years. So, you know, this work, I'm so excited that we are here today, hopefully collecting enough signatures to get this on the ballot, to let Missourians really decide that and show how much they support the right for a woman to choose what is right for her life and her body. And for me, I'm one of 4 daughters. I grew up here in the Midwest. My father's a physician. You know, the idea of reproductive care was never political in my house. It's devastating to me, the reality of what is happening and how it has become so politicized, because to me, this is a conversation that belongs between an individual and their physician and an individual and their loved ones. It is not to me, politicians should not be involved.
So you founded the Gateway Coalition, which my understanding is it supports independent abortion clinics, although I think it also helps out some smaller Planned Parenthood affiliates too.
Yes.
There's a lot of those facilities in Illinois who are probably being inundated with people from places like Missouri. What are you kind of hearing about whether the bans in places like Missouri and elsewhere is kind of overloading their capacity?
Well, that was a huge catalyst for wanting to really focus on this. And I started Gateway Coalition even before Roe was overturned. But what I really realized, especially once Roe fell, was that the fragmentation of care across this country, but specifically in the Midwest, you know, at that time, Illinois was really the island of oasis in the middle of a desert, you know, that so many states, including Missouri, had a trigger law that went into effect. So 6 minutes after Roe was overturned, Missouri made abortion illegal. So anyone who needed life-saving care at any stage had to go across the state line into Illinois. And so for me, you know, I wanted to do whatever I could and initially, you know, focused on Illinois, of just the infrastructure that exists, the independent clinics, the clinics across Illinois who are really holding up the front line and have been. But this is an opportunity to take it to the ballot box and actually have Missourians reinstore protections in our home state, so you don't have to leave Missouri to receive just the vital care that I believe every woman deserves.
I was looking at your Instagram reel when you announced the Gateway Coalition, and I was looking at the comments. I don't know if you read all the comments. Some were supportive and some were not, because I think you probably have found out that this is a conviction issue. You either feel like this is a matter of bodily autonomy and it's a fundamental right, or you think that it's morally wrong and it is against like your religion or something like that. I'm interested to kind of hear, you said it's not political, but it does seem like people have very strong reactions to the concept of legal abortion. And what's kind of your impression about how people react to this issue?
Well, it's no secret that there's an enormous amount of bipartisan support. Many signatures and people showing up here today and organizing this effort are Republicans as well as Democrats. So, you know, for me, even though I personally believe this should be a conversation between an individual and their physician, we do have bipartisan support of people across the aisle who believe that this is a human right. You know, to quote Secretary Clinton, women's rights are human rights. I believe reproductive rights are women's rights and therefore should be protected and respected. And so, you know, I learned to not pay attention to the comments a long time ago, so I don't really care.
Oh, I get it. Like when you have any bit of prominence, it's best to just pretend the Instagram or Facebook or Twitter comments don't exist. But sometimes it's hard because it's sort of like a gnat going into a light or something like that.
You know, to be honest, it's a privilege to have anybody paying attention to what I say on Instagram or anywhere. So for me, that was, I was very intentional in wanting to be public about my support of this issue. I understand not everyone chooses to be public. And by the way I set up Gateway Coalition is that we actually have a safe, anonymous way for individuals to donate to where the care is where, excuse me, let me say this again.
Sure, feel free.
The way that we actually set up Gateway Coalition was to create a safe, anonymous way for donors to donate to the clinics that are holding up this front line because of that exact feedback. You know, so many people are scared to stand up for this issue or donate to this issue. So I wanted to be able to create a way, and that's what we've done at Gateway Coalition, is to help direct resources to the physicians, the clinics, in any way that they're needed, whether it's a travel stipend for an individual, a stipend for childcare if they need to be able to travel and jump through all the hoops needed, or if clinics need just even extra resources to keep the lights on, which, as we talked about, the infrastructure specifically in Illinois has been so overwhelmed by individuals coming from across the nation. So for me, I'm from Missouri. I'm so proud to be from St. Louis and from Missouri. It's a huge part of who I am, but it quite honestly been devastating for me to see what's been happening in my home state, which is why I feel very optimistic about what's happening and collecting these signatures hopefully by May 5th to get it on the ballot.
Well, let's talk about the initiative, which you were gathering signatures today here in Creve Coeur. Did you run it? Did you talk to anybody who were like saying, I'm a Republican, but I don't like this ban when you were just there now? Or have you talked about that? Or have you heard that from people? And
yes. Well, I was even reading some of the coverage on a poll that you were reporting on. Correct me if I'm misquoting you, but I believe it was 24% of Republican voters actually said that they supported access to abortion. And
I believe that's correct. You are a very good St. Louis Public Radio reader, but continue.
I'm a big fan, but I appreciate that you're covering this. And I think a lot of people don't see this as a black and white issue. They see this as a human issue. And also, by the way, the trigger ban that went into effect had no exceptions, which is, to me, that is just unacceptable. It's to me, this is so deeply human. I believe, I'm one of 4 daughters. Like I said, my father's a physician. This is healthcare. This is an individual's choice of if and when they're ready to become a parent. And to me, that should not be politicized. And, and also, I think that's why it matters to take this back to the voters, to actually allow voters to speak for themselves despite their party.
If you encounter like somebody who is a Republican and they may be interested in signing this petition, what's your elevator pitch to them? What are you going to tell them about why they should consider supporting this ballot initiative?
Well, as you've reported on, there is an overwhelming majority of voters, Republican or Democrat, who believe that an individual should have this right. And, to me, I have a lot of people who we work with Gateway Coalition who want to support access to care and also access to, we have a lot of people who support Gateway Coalition who are Democratic and Republican and from the Midwest, and many who are not, who understand why it matters to support an individual seeking the vital life-saving care that they need.
So there are a lot of other states which have similar either ballot items that are aimed at protecting abortion rights or trying to undo restrictions. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, there could be people in New York or California who are like, why should I care about what happens in Missouri or Mississippi or South Dakota? Like, we're red states.
Yeah.
We're going to have no impact on the presidential race.
Yeah.
You probably have encountered some of those folks before, but what is the message to people across the nation about why people should pay attention about what's happening here?
Well, I've galvanized a lot of support and involvement from individuals from the coasts who don't have roots back in the Midwest like I do, but understand or want to understand how they can help, even if it doesn't necessarily touch their life, which is what with Gateway Coalition we've really been doing, is not only kind of connecting dots and helping access, galvanize resources, but also just information, galvanizing, people to come together and learn from the physicians or care providers who are here in the Midwest. Jennifer Pepper is a phenomenal just leader, and she runs a clinic called Choices in Carbondale, Illinois. And I actually went to go visit her and see the clinic, which people travel from across the country to come to Carbondale, Illinois, because it is geographically the closest place to where they live. So people are coming from Texas or across the South or across the Midwest. And to me, it's so important, and I think anyone, it doesn't matter where you're from, understands why it matters to have access to safe legal care near where you live.
My final question for you, what do you think is at stake here in Missouri, whether it's on the ballot in August or November, to legalize abortion?
Well, to me, this issue is about dignity. It's about respect and an individual's bodily autonomy to decide what is right for them in their life at whatever time they need to be making that choice. And so this ban, I believe we have a chance to overturn, and I am going to do everything I can to collect as many signatures out in the rain today and support this.
And you gave up $50,000, I think, to the petition as well. Maybe more, maybe less. I don't know. You've given your own. You're putting your own skin in the game, so to speak.
I've been very involved in not long before this ballot initiative, but I think for me, anything I can with any resources I have, whether it's my time, my voice, my dollars. This is a deeply personal issue and something I believe we have the opportunity to hopefully put protections in place to reinstore care for Missourians, and that is what I'm most focused on.
You can read more of our coverage about the efforts to legalize abortion in Missouri by going to stlpr.org. I'm Jason Rosenbaum, and thank you for listening.